I do so many different things, but I try to incorporate my daughter in my business. And one of the most powerful things I've learned to do is to say no, because I'm a hustler, babe.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Who Can Relate. Today's guest is going to amaze you on so many different levels. Her name is Sophie. She's a massage therapist and has been for over 14 years. Her extensive training in various modalities. Her expertise has led her to travel around the world, sharing her passion for healing, educating others. Her clientele consists of many athletes and celebrities, and they can receive the beauty, and I have been one to experience her amazing massages and her individual body work. So not everything is the same for everyone. It's very customizable, which is beautiful. She's also an investor, skincare professional, mother, and beautiful soul that has an incredible energy that is infectious. So without further ado, welcome, Sophie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. How did I do on the...
That was a beautiful entry.
Okay, all right.
Intro.
I'm getting better. Right, so let's add a little bit more background. Where are you from? Maybe if you want to talk about a couple of your businesses. Again, you are like jack of all trades and a master of all. So.
Okay, so I grew up in Southern California, in San Fernando Valley, and I moved to Las Vegas when I was about 20 years old, and just kind of wanted to get out of LA. Yeah. I didn't feel I had my place here at that time. Sure. So I nannied for a big developer out there for a couple years, and as much as I loved working with children, and it was such a beautiful experience and growth, I just knew that I was meant to be doing something else. Sure. And then I became in massage therapy. I went to school in Las Vegas, and it was one of the best schools you could go to in the country. And it's 14 years later. I'm still doing it, but I moved back to LA about 9 years after that. Okay.
And I know, because I've met her, your beautiful little daughter. Let's talk about her for a second. I know it's probably your pride and joy.
Yes. So her name's Kalia, and she's my world. She's amazing. She's taught me so much. Yeah. She is a beautiful child and a healer also. And she's brought so much healing to my life. I've learned so much from her. She's almost 6 years old. So
So you're born, I guess it sounds like, to be that to have that healing gift. I know obviously you do. Did you think that you were born with it, and then as you got older you had to dig deep to discover it and kind of fine tune it, or did you just always know, like, my purpose here is to help people, to heal people?
I do feel today that is my purpose, to help and heal people. Growing up, I felt a lot of chaos and anxiety around me. And I spent many years of my life with the eating disorder. So I believe that this came into my life almost to save me. Sure. And I was able to get educated on the human body and the anatomy and what I was doing. I was really killing myself. So many years later now, it's just my passion to share this healing and self-love with the world, because I was one of the people that, had an addiction, and I was destroying myself. So.
Yeah. Wow. And good for you for turning that around, right? And now obviously with your daughter, as I'm a father as well, it's no longer about us, right? It's always about them, and have to lead by example. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of things revolving around kids and children, right? And one of the things is dating as a mother, dating as a father, a single mother, single father, kind of what that entails, what it looks like. We're also going to be going over when to introduce your child to your partner, etc. But first, let's start off at the very beginning of being a single mom, being a single dad, and the dating experience, right? And I know, as you mentioned earlier offline, how you were nervous at first. For me, my experience was I was always hesitant. Not that I was ashamed of being a father of my daughter, but I was definitely hesitant in the sense of, is this going to be a deal breaker for somebody? It's not for everybody. I know that. But also, in order for me to be in a serious relationship, they're going to have to get along with my daughter. So maybe you just want to touch on how, if you were nervous at first, maybe you felt that deal breaker thing. Also how, I often thought I could only be with someone who loved my daughter the way I did, but then I realized that everyone loves differently. And maybe for you, maybe you felt like, I only have to date people who have kids because they're the only ones who can relate and understand. So if you want to talk about that.
So I've been a single mother since the beginning.
Okay.
And I would say the first year of Kalia's life, I was so focused on learning how to co-parent, which was, really everybody's experience is completely different.
Sure.
And you have to learn what works for your family and your child. So that was my number one priority. So I would say about 2.5 years went by, and I still was so just nervous to try and start the dating process. So I really had to first emotionally and mentally open up and be open-minded to the experience, whether it would be meeting somebody or online dating.
Yeah.
I had to open myself up to it. So that was the first step. So once I did, it started happening.
Yeah.
And I think I was so scared to meet a man that wasn't a father, because I just thought he wouldn't be able to relate or understand where I was coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or understand my child.
Yeah.
So I was looking for single dads. I was on the hunt for a single father.
Yeah.
And, that became challenging because sometimes those men would have a complete opposite custody schedule as mine.
Sure.
So it was just so hard to meet. And then with the traffic in LA, and then trying to focus on my business at the same time, and it would give me a few hours out of the week to find a date or to be able to give myself that time.
Yeah.
So as my daughter got older, she got more time with her dad. Our custody schedule now is she's with him 3 nights a week and with me the other 4 every week. And it's given me time to really be able to work on myself, find time for dating. I would find time to date and kind of just work on the first dates when she was with her dad. And really, I wanted my time to be with her.
Sure.
And then I eventually, because I kept my heart open, I met a man. Yeah. Beautiful man.
Yeah.
I'm in love, and he is not a single father, but he's a man who's he has everything and more that I wanted in a partner, and we're still growing together. And now he has a beautiful relationship with my daughter and their own bond, and we're all learning from the experience.
So let's talk about how, again, because you thought for a while there, I can only date another man, a single father, right? And here you are in love with someone who doesn't have kids. But let's talk about the intro, and kind of everyone's different, right? And the common question is when? And then even then it's like how, right? So for me, I always knew, I kind of had a checklist of what I wanted to kind of see before I introduced my daughter to the other woman and the woman I was dating. And once I got that, okay, fine, now we're ready to introduce. I would talk to my daughter about it first. Hey, daddy's dating someone. I want you to meet her. She's great, etc. So that way, by the time she actually met the woman, they kind of had some type of rapport, right? The woman knew about her, obviously, and then vice versa. What did you find that was kind of a solution for you as far as when to introduce, and then once you figured out when, how to introduce?
So the first thing I did, I might have even asked you because we were friends at the time. I would ask all my divorced friends that had children when they decided to introduce, because I really had no idea when to do that. So most of the answers I would get was wait at least 6 months or wait until it's very serious. And I only introduced her to one person before I met the person that I'm with now. And he had kids, so we introduced them on a play date, and we introduced them as friends, that we were all friends, that he wasn't my partner or my boyfriend. And it stayed in that area because I never got more serious, and nothing was messy, and he really respected me as a mother, and I respected him as a father, and it just didn't work out in that relationship. But with this person, I think I knew early on, I had some dating experience as a mother, and I knew this was somebody that I was going to get serious, have a future with, and I don't know how to explain it. I knew it. And I knew that this is something that he really wanted, and having children or a child in his life was a dream of his as well. So we spoke about it a lot, and we moved into a serious relationship a little bit faster than I have in the past, but he was introduced to my daughter as a friend. And I think it was just because I was so nervous still to fail her and say and it's okay. You know what? Your kids need to see you make mistakes, and this is how they grow and learn. And you just have to be honest and communicate with them.
I'm glad you said that, because for me, my daughter recently told me, like a couple of weeks ago, how she up until this point thought I was perfect. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I'm sorry I gave you that false facade. I guess I was just always trying to be the best example and role model, to her. But funny enough, when I saw our daughters are, I think, like 7 years apart, when I introduced Shay to Adriana, I said the same thing. I said, this is, Daddy's friend, and she was like, okay, like she knew. But again, at the time she was 9 going on 10. And, but she knew, and obviously kids know more than we think that they know. So did your daughter just believe you that they were just friends, or did you think she kind of knew, like,
no, she knew. She knew that we were more than friends. I think she could feel and see the chemistry. And even though she was so young, she would tell me, I really like, she gave him a nickname, and she was, I really like him, Mommy. I think you should marry him. And this was after the first time. And I said, well, we're friends. We're getting to know each other. And I think as a single mom, you're not just picking someone for yourself. You're picking someone for your child, too. So I wanted to make sure, before I got any more serious with him on my own, that he was going to connect to my child. If they were not going to connect, I don't think I would get that serious with him. So them being able to connect so beautifully, it made a better flow for all of us.
It's I was in a relationship where a long relationship, 4.5, 5 years, and the woman just being a step parent wasn't for her. I'll just say that. She's a beautiful person inside and out. She's going to be an amazing mom. But being a step parent, which is not for everyone, just wasn't really for her. And I felt that. And I believe now, I've had conversations with my daughter. She felt it as well. And even when she met her, she was 2 years old, my daughter. So even from that early on age, the maybe not feeling so welcome or a warm embrace, right? So she... I felt it. I know my daughter felt it. And obviously, it just wasn't enough, but for me to move forward. But let's talk about how. So you introduce your child to the other person, right? I bring this up because I had to learn, as I know we talked about, how to delegate to the other person, right, to the partner, and also how to include this new person in your life with your daughter and my life with my daughter. How to include them without making them feel like, let's go along for the ride, and that person's in the back seat just kind of going along with it and not participating in it. So let's talk about kind of the challenges it is for us, right, to, again, delegate, every now and then ask for help, very often include that person. What did that kind of look like for you?
So I have a big control bone.
Okay.
And in this relationship, I really have learned to let go of it. Because it wasn't helping me in my friendships. In any relationship, and I think I just wasn't aware of it because being a single mother, you have such a large load, and you want to make sure you can carry it all. Absolutely. So you take the father role, you take the business role, you take the mother role, you kind of take charge. That's where Mama Bear name comes from, and that's actually my nickname.
Okay, all right.
In my business too, because I just have that need to take care of people. So when the relationship started to get more serious, without realizing it, I was just in the driver's seat all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that as a partner. I didn't want a partner to take the back seat, but I was giving him the only option to take the back seat.
Sure.
And we had to have some conflict to realize, I had to really look at myself and say, oh, wow, this is not okay. I want him to feel like he's in the front seat with me.
Sure.
And I just wasn't used to that in a partner. I wasn't used to a partner that wanted to help, that wanted to take the driver's seat, that wanted to, come in and not take control, but help us and be an equal partner.
Sure.
Because I was just used to doing everything.
Yeah.
For my daughter. So now, we are really making sure that he has an important place, and that his feelings and his thoughts and emotions are just as important. It's not just Kalia and Sophie show anymore.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because I'm sure some of my exes and maybe even, my wife today felt that initially on before we, so it's something to be said where, you can trust someone and trust someone in every facet of that word, and including with our children, right? And trust that they're going to have, our back on situations. They're going to have the same parenting mindset that we have. But it's so easier said than done for the parent to actually delegate and ask for help, or to include. And again, being control people that we are, I really struggled with that. But I see the difference, and I want to ask you, once Shay kind of was in the front seat, I'll use roll with your metaphor, and it was us co-parenting now together, my daughter, not just like, let me listen to what Justin wants me to do with his daughter, right? I saw a switch in a difference in a beautiful way. Did you kind of see that switch?
Yes, I did. I saw a difference in our chemistry, in just our vibe overall. It's really important to let him have his word. And with my daughter being such a mini me, she will take control of what we're doing and the conversation. And I had to talk to her about that, and just both her and I are learning a lot. This is everyday practice, to listen.
Sure.
And to listen what this beautiful partner of mine has to say, and what he wants to do, and where he wants to go on vacation, and what movie he wants to watch. Instead of us picking, because we just, we got used to it just being us. So it's also it's a practice for her too. I had to talk to her, because I didn't want him to come into our life and eventually, we're going to be a full family unit, and maybe even bring in another life. I wanted him to feel that he was just as important or more in our relationship. And it's something that I had to really discuss with my daughter too. It's not just mom, and she understands it. She knows that a beautiful thing will happen from it, but she also was a little bit nervous. Well, I really like it just being mommy, and I really like getting all the attention, because at her daddy's house she doesn't get that attention. So we do many things to make her feel very special, you know, that she's very important. And I think that's what it is, a communication, a balance of making sure we are all feeling important and getting our place and our time, and it has made the overall connection with all of us
and the
better.
experience that much better. If you can, without maybe giving the answers away to everybody, but if you can, just for some possible solutions, if someone is going through that exact same situation of, if it's a mother, for example, how do I delegate? How do I kind of just let that other person come in and co-parent with me, right? And give him or her a voice as well. Do you have any solutions or tips?
I would say it's constant communication and checking in with your partner, checking in with your child, making sure they understand what's going on. Making sure everybody's on the same page, or trying to figure out what you can do to make it better. Learning to listen. I think it's challenging when you have 3 strong people in the room, and you really have to learn to just not talk and listen to what the other people's needs are. And
communication is a two-way street, as I have learned the hard way several times, and I'm still a work in progress. But I learned that the best way to listen to someone is when you try to listen to understand so that you can teach it. So you really want to funnel in what they're saying. So if someone asked you, hey, what did that person just say? What did they tell you? You'd be able to almost repeat word for word. That's how you retain it better. But it's listening to understand instead of listening to reply is also a little short answer to that too. But I want to talk about how, the step parent, I bless their heart, they have a difficult time, especially in the disciplinary role. As I mentioned, Shay, like if you see something wrong, speak up. Don't wait for me to come in. Don't wait to call me if I'm not there. Handle it how you want to handle it. Did he kind of discuss? Did you guys have some examples of that as well along the way?
She just, if somebody wants to play with her, she's just all about that person.
Sure.
Whether it's one of my friends or somebody at her dad's house, it's me. It's constant. She's a little girl that wants to play. It's
sure.
Play with me. So he always, anytime he's over or we're at his house, he makes it about her and he wants to play with her. He hasn't taken the role of disciplining her. She really is a good girl.
Sure.
She's a very sweet girl. But I think when we are all in the same house, I want him, it's going to be a lot of communication. Sure. I want him to feel comfortable to play that role and to, discipline his stepchild and his own child once he has. So it's going to be practice for him.
Yeah, it's something that's funny because you don't want to have the good cop, bad cop scenario, right? This, my daughter's been out here in LA now it'll be over a month. And for a while there, I felt like Shay was the good cop. And I was the one saying, make your bed, clean up your bathroom, clean up whatever you're playing with. And so we had to talk about it. And I said, hey, look, I kind of need your help in this. Not to be the bad guy with me, but just kind of, let's level it out here a little bit. But speaking of co-parenting and again, and how things can be challenging, in their own right, I want to talk about, because we've actually experienced this pretty heavily this trip with Adriana being out here, how, being in one household, so say my house is one way, one thing, kind of the same narrative, and then being in, her mother's household, it could be a totally different setup and a different set of rules, etc. So do you want to talk about how, two different households, how that affects you as a mom, and then also what you've witnessed and how it affects your daughter?
So I would love to say we have the perfect situation for co-parenting, and I run everything through her dad and he runs everything through me, and we can communicate about how she's feeling. But in our situation, that's not the case. We do very little communicating, and it's only through email. And overall, she still has two happy environments, and she's a happy little girl because of it, and she gets more experience because of it. So I think the communication with her and me is very strong. So she will communicate everything that happens over there, and I give her the chance to do it. At her other house, she's not allowed to talk about me, and I don't want to talk too much about them, but it closes so much for her to be able to open up, and she's so scared to mention my name there, and her stepbrother and sister make her feel bad about it. So at my house, I want her to feel like she can tell me everything that makes her happy from her experience. And I love to know what's going on because it just makes me understand her more. So she often will tell me, well, Mommy, I'm in timeout all the time at Daddy's house. And I tell Daddy, we don't have timeout at your house. And we don't. And I've never, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, that just for us, we communicate and we talk about and we learn from our problems. And sometimes people use time out to do their
reflection time or whatever.
Or reflection time, and we just have a really strong communication. And if there's something she really is feeling bad about, something that happened at her other house, I will email her father. Because there are things that are important enough to email him, but I usually don't get a response back. So it is challenging. I mean, we're just constantly I'm just trying to make sure she's good and figure out what works for her, and just let her know that if things don't work out the way she wants to over there, it's okay. And she's not wrong for it.
You mentioned, as we talked earlier, there's like a transition day when your daughter comes home from her dad's house. You and her have this beautiful, as you talked about, just communication time, and she can kind of let out everything maybe she's been holding on to, while she's at her dad's house for the time being, bless her heart. And that's something that I actually will implement as well with my daughter, kind of a transition day. It always happens. So for example, for me, whenever I would get my daughter, when she was younger, so her mom and I split up when we were, my daughter was 2 years old. Initially, early on there, when I would first start to get her, that first 2 days almost was rough. I mean, there's a lot of crying, bless her heart, she's 2 years old, a lot of crying, borderline separation anxiety, so for me, I'm like, oh no, like I don't want to feel like I'm taking her away from her mom. It's very important that obviously, you have daddy time too, and how do you explain this to a 2-year-old is very difficult. But as she got older, it got a little bit better, a little bit easier, and then now here she's okay, but there's still some reluctancy as far as coming out to LA. Even when I lived in Chicago, coming out to Chicago, especially if it was for an extended period of time and not just your standard weekend as we had. She had fear of missing out. She didn't want to miss out she has sisters with her mom now. Her mom is married. She didn't want to miss out with that family time, right? But I'm like, well, you have to spend time with us and my family because we have memories we have to build as well. So bless her heart, again, she just felt this like tug of war, torn feeling, and so this trip, we've actually really unpacked that and talked about that. But at the end of the day, as I tie this all together, this segment, it's not about you. It's not about the father. It's not about me. It's not about the mother. It is about our children. It's about them. I have a saying in our house, is Team Adriana. Everyone has the same jersey on. We play for the same team. We're rooting for the same person. And the more we can all kind of get on that page, the better. Right. So let's move along here. I want to talk about how, it's really important to take care of yourself, right? While you're a single mother, we'll take it back here for a second. And finding the time to date, right? You still have to find your you time. You still have to find your self-care. So I want to ask you, what does self-care and self-love mean to a massage therapist who also, again, is a skincare professional? You are like the epitome. I know, but I want people to know. What does self-care and self-love mean to you?
Well, as I said before, I spent so many years not loving myself. So I really had to learn from the ground up to learn to love myself and realize what a huge part of growth that is and how powerful it is to being a parent. Sure. In the beginning of, spending one night away from my daughter, I just thought it was the worst thing in the world. Yeah. Like, how can I not have my daughter every night?
Sure.
And as important it is for her to have a relationship, and I promote with her father, I really had to be okay with letting her go.
Yeah.
She needed that. Every child needs their father.
Sure.
So with that time that I didn't have her, I had opportunity to work on myself, which is the most amazing thing for a mom. A lot of moms do not get that opportunity, or fathers, to just take care of themselves and do them. And even if it's a night out to have fun, you have that time. So take advantage of that time. Not everybody has it. So for, my friends that just went through a divorce or single moms, single dads, take that time to do you. What your dreams, your passions, your self-care, self-love, get massage, treat yourself, pamper yourself, because when your child comes back, you're going to be ready for them.
So much better for
and
it. Yeah.
Even at home, practice in front of them. And my daughter knows the importance of how important it is to take care of herself, to respect her body, I had a horrible relationship with food growing up. And one of the things that was so important to me was to have a dining table when my daughter was out of the high chair. And my first place was really little. The second place, I made sure we were going to be able to fit a dining table, because when I was a kid, I remember as soon as we weren't sitting at that dining table, that's kind of when the disconnection in our family happened. So having dinners, having a dining table, having a good relationship with food, with your body, with your skin, with your health, everything. The self-love is just going to make your relationship, your business, your everything better in your life. So it's so important.
But I want to ask is I think, and you and I know that, but it took time for us to not feel guilty, to take that time for ourselves, and to not, feel like, well, that's my daughter's time, right? I need to spend time with them, or I'll get my massage. I'll cancel. I'll get it next week because my daughter wants me to do this. But it's important to not only not feel guilty, but as you said, make sure you take that time seriously, because again, the more you can take care of yourself, actually the more your daughter will benefit, whether she realizes it or not. At 2 or 5 or 10 years old, eventually they will. And I think it's beautiful that you show that and you lead them, by example to your daughter. Say, hey, this is mommy's time, or whatever you want to call it. But again, for the parents out there, the single parents out there who feel guilty to take that selfish time, do you want to leave words of encouragement, for them? Because I'm sure you were there at one point, right?
Oh, yes. And even if you're not a single parent, find a way to incorporate your kids if you have your kids every day, which is also a beautiful gift.
Sure.
But if you do have that time away from your kids and you feel guilty, just try not to. Try to be in a place where, you're okay with it's so important to be a good parent, but it's so important to not lose yourself in being a good parent, So you really have to keep that connection with who you are outside of being a parent. And single parents get that advantage. There's definitely a silver lining. You get to even have a night out and not have responsibility
or
of getting
couple nights.
A couple nights and dating and self-care, massages, all that stuff. It's really the time you have to yourself to keep that connection to yourself, so that when your child comes back, they see the best of you. And I can't wait for that day that she comes back, but I also know how important it is to have that time away for both of us to grow on our own. Because we're two different people,
That work-life balance, though, is so important. And I think, a lot of people, unfortunately, in this country, from my experience of traveling, is, we live to work here. And a lot of places outside of the United States, they work to live. It's a totally different dynamic. And I didn't necessarily grow up with my mom's a single mom, so she had to work a lot. I didn't really grow up with the family dinners, as you called it, but I do remember the couple times that we had them. Even to this day, I'm 33 years old, and how important they are. And as you and I were younger, there weren't really cell phones as a distraction. There was just life as a distraction. Now, let alone, technology, what it is. But I think, as you mentioned, when we had our talk the other day, you learned that from your mom, and kind of what she showed you and how she led by example and subconsciously instilled in you. And now here you are as a mother doing the same thing for your daughter. If you want to talk about kind of your experience with your mom growing up in her work-life balance.
Yeah, there's balance is so important, but there's no perfect balance.
Of course.
And it's always, every day is a challenge to find the balance that works for your family. So my mom and my dad, both of them, the hardest workers I've ever met. And, I took that from them. And it was really important for my mom to be able to make money, work hard, and also be with us. So she started a daycare so that she can be with us. And she even worked at night. My dad would be at home at night and she would go and waitress. So she just wanted to provide and also be with us. So she found a way. So same as me. I do so many different things, but I try to incorporate my daughter in my business. And one of the most powerful things I've learned to do is to say no, because I'm a hustler, babe. And I've always worked so hard, probably since I was like 13 years old, and I've always been able to take care of myself and everything I needed. So now that I have a child, I want to be able to still work hard, but have the time for her. So I've made my business around our life, and I've learned to say no and take breaks. This last week I've worked so much, and this next week we're taking 4 days off to spend on the beach.
Great.
So it's a balance. It's never the same, but it's important to find it, because it's your sanity and your health too.
100%.
You have to sometimes say no to the phone. And we have the same rule. I've had that rule for a long time. My boyfriend, at first, he's like, "What? No phones at the table?" What? And now he understands how important it is.
There's a beautiful quote, and I try to implement this on a daily basis. My wife is very selfless, and the quote says, "Don't say yes to me if that means saying no to you, to yourself."
Oh, that's beautiful.
And and my therapist told me, a while ago when I first was with Shay, I said, she's just so selfless. I want her to be selfish. There's another quote that says, self-love isn't selfish. It's important. It's necessary. And I think Shay had a really hard time finding that balance, saying no to me. And I've really tried to help her say, look, even if I'm begging you, say no to me if that's what it's going to take, because I know ultimately it's going to be good for you and it's going to be good for us in the long run. I just want to, as we reflect on all that we talked about, which has been so many great topics, you said I had a hard time opening up, dating and allowing myself to, for me, for example, I didn't feel worthy enough to date with a child. And it sounds strange, but this was me at 20 years old, 21 years old. But if you can kind of talk about that.
I had to really open up the experience too. I'm so private. My business is private.
Yeah.
My gym is private. Everything's private in my life.
Yeah.
So I really wasn't going to I felt I wasn't going to meet somebody unless I tried different experiences. So I thought I would never try online dating.
Sure.
And I did. And it was a great experience for me. I met my partner doing that. So I would say don't put walls up onto, you make your list.
Sure.
And make your list of what you want in your partner, and it could change. I mean, I don't always know what I want. I know what I don't want. I know there's no's,
Yeah.
And I focused on the yes, and more yeses came in.
Yeah.
And I had to just be open to the experience. It wasn't always a great experience, but
Sure.
it was an experience.
Sure.
And it allowed me to kind of, weed out more what I wanted, and until that person came in, and
Sure.
it was just amazing.
A lot
There's
easier.
not a perfect person, but for me, it was the connection.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful when I was patient, and I felt I wasn't getting desperate about it. I just knew, if it takes, when I was ready for it, if it takes a long time, then it takes a long time.
Sure.
I'd rather be with the right person and wait
Sure.
than
Yeah.
be with the wrong person and rush into something. So as advice I would give to somebody that's coming out of like a relationship, just give yourself time, focus on yourself first.
Yeah.
That's the most important. Make sure the relationship with yourself first
Yes.
is
good.
good.
Yeah.
And then you'll be ready to meet.
Right.
Then you're going to actually attract the right person,
Yeah.
and you'll be ready to give the right you to that
Yeah.
person too. So just be patient, but just be open. Don't say no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that.
Sure.
You have to say yes.
Yeah.
To trying new experience.
Yeah. So what if we can, again, we talked about amazing things. If we can kind of sum up, what do you want someone to take from this episode? What do you think in your hopes that someone will be able to relate to anything that we kind of discussed today?
I think it's really important to be kind to yourself. This is part of self-love, to forgive yourself if something doesn't work out. Learn that there was a reason it didn't work out, especially in a relationship, and make mistakes, and let your child see you make, not mistakes with partners so much, but at home, in front of your child, so that they could see that you're not perfect, and they're going to grow from that. You're going to grow from that. And if something does, I think I had a conversation with you on something I wanted to work out and it didn't, and now I'm grateful it didn't, because I allowed something better to come into my life. So just trust that you're exactly where you're meant to be, and that you're, there's a plan that it's bigger than the one you have, and you have to be okay with it not happening the way you exactly planned, because there is a greater plan. I always say God's plan.
For sure.
And
you have to be flexible.
You have to be flexible.
Yeah, 100%. And you have to, like you said, roll with it in the sense of, keeping your intuition and your gut feeling at the forefront. Like if something doesn't feel right, don't force the issue, and as you said with your partner, you felt it, and even your daughter, was kind of like, marry him, so little signs like that are very important to pay attention to, and to not just disregard or, not take seriously.
And I tell my daughter the same thing: learn from it, grow, but keep moving. Don't stay in that heartache. Don't stay in that horrible experience. Just keep moving forward, because you're going to allow so much more to come in your life, business, career, passion, everything.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that. Another piece of advice I give my friends who are going through any type of relationship struggles, especially the ones who feel stuck, should I stay or should I go kind of thing. And I tell them very simply, and I'm very black and white about it, and I say, look, what advice would you give your daughter or your son going through the same situation you're going through? And a lot of people are like, oh, wow, I never thought of it like that. Why would you, want someone you love to go through what you're going through? It's as simple as that. So I appreciate you telling your daughter that. Cool. So this is the really fun part. You can relax now, kind of take it easy. So we're going to go through a round of rapid fire questions. There's 5 questions, and you've not been prepped. You have no idea what's coming out of my mouth. But I do it that way purposely to kind of get the raw, authentic response and answer. So first question, again, of 5. Who is or was your role model?
My role model, I would have to say my parents.
Sure.
There's been so many times, when I was little and I thought they were the best. And then as I got into my teens, I thought they were not that great, and they were full of mistakes. And now I look back and I just really respect the way they did things, and they sacrificed so much for us just to make sure we, my siblings and I, were at their best.
Sure.
So
that's beautiful. Okay. So question number 2, what does your dream life look like?
I'm so sad right now when having another child with the person I'm in love with, and
Sure.
Probably drive him crazy about it. But I think if we can bring another child, and just from my experience, I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful for all the the good and bad that I've learned, because I think I would really just do things so differently, and know that there's no perfect way, and and because I'm so in love with this person, I think it would be so amazing to have this gift with him. So
Sure.
just to have health, and that's probably the most important thing, and just grow together as a family.
I love it. Question number 3. What was or is one situation or experience that you would consider life-changing?
Becoming a mother. I will say that's a big part of everything that I do today. It's not all of me.
Sure.
But it definitely taught me self-love and selfless love, unconditional love.
Sure.
And that's something I really, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But there's something I connect with parents that I just don't have that connection with anyone else. And some of my closest friends are parents, and I think I have I have close friends that aren't parents, but also once they become parents, we connect on a deeper level. And there's just something about being a parent. I have so much respect for moms and dads, and just what they go through and what they sacrifice, and how all the good, it's changed me. It's made me a better person for sure.
Unconditional love is right. I know, I hope my daughter's here in this particular day and episode, but she can do no wrong. I mean, it's one of those things where you love them, good, bad, ugly, everything in between. Unconditional love is definitely the best word for that. And speaking of my daughter, the next question is, and I asked this, and for selfish reasons, this is for me, and I'm sure obviously everyone else watching, but as a man, as her father, being that she's a woman, there's only certain things I can really help her with, right? But as a fellow woman, my selfish question to you is, what advice would you give your teenager self? So teenager Sophie, as I take notes so I can tell my daughter.
I would say don't compare yourself. I think we spend so much of our lives comparing ourselves to other women or other people and what they have and what we don't have. And I remember doing that a lot and just feeling so insecure when I was younger. And I have this conversation with my daughter every week about how she's different and she's unique, and that makes her, I don't like to use the word special because I think everybody's special.
Sure.
So I try not to say special, but that makes her her, and she's going to be different from me, and she's going to be different. She's her own person, and she's allowed to feel her own way. She doesn't have to feel the way I feel about something. She doesn't have to, like the same colors as me. So just so learn to love yourself who you are, and don't compare yourself. It's a beautiful thing for everyone.
Comparison is the thief of joy, as I always say, and I appreciate you sharing that, and it's something I'll definitely implement to her. Last final question. What do you admire most about you?
I think what I admire most about myself is that I've learned to love myself, and it was the most challenging thing for somebody that spent so many years just hating who she was. And I truly, truly have learned to forgive and love and accept who I am, and I try to share that passion with my partner and my mom and my daughter, because I think it's one of the most powerful things you can have.
Absolutely.
In this world is to forgive and to love yourself, and just be compassionate for your experience, and no one's going to love you the way you love yourself,
course.
And then that allows you to love other people. So
absolutely. Great answers to all these questions. I kind of want to, so I have two more things coming up. First and foremost, where can people find you? What do you want people? I know you just launched your other Instagram with your with the other company.
Okay, so I'm still working on a website, but I write for a few websites and for Poosh, for Kourtney Kardashian's blog, and I made a page inspired with what I write for that, and it's all about self-love and self-care and positivity, and it's called Conscious Living by Sophie.
Okay.
It's on Instagram. It's my public page, and right now that's probably the best place to.
Conscious Living by Sophie.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I always end every episode with acknowledging my guest, and I wrote out a couple things to acknowledge you right now. First and foremost, again, as I told you right before we started filming, you were the very first person. It was 2017. I remember I was driving in my car in Chicago. I was leaving you a voice note. You and I were kind of talking about, you'd been going through some ups and downs, and at that time your relationship, and I was trying to give you the best advice I could, and kind of the male perspective. And I remember your voice note back to me was just beautiful, and you thanked me, and you just said, you need to start a podcast about this. And at the time, first of all, full disclosure, I didn't know what a podcast was. I was not into it at that point in time. And one thing led to another. Here we are 3 years later, and now you're on my show, which is crazy and amazing. But yeah, so I want to thank you for believing in me, first and foremost, even way back then. Also for you just being the total beautiful package of a woman that you are, as a mother, as a partner, as a businesswoman, how you handle and juggle the whole work-life balance. I mean, once you get done with the Conscious Living by Sophie, write a book, and a how-to book. And I mean, you're going to help out a lot of beautiful people, a lot of women and men as well. And I just appreciate your constant positive energy. I mean, I know you're human, but it's hard to believe because I've never seen you on a bad day. I've never heard your voice in a bad mood. You manage to always find this amazing amount of silver lining and glass half full and positive energy. And it spews, it's contagious, it's infectious. Every time you walk in the door, it spews all over. And you're just this beautiful light and a person, and we need more like you. So, Thank you so much.
Thank you to you too, because I feel the same about you. And just to see you grow as a father, and
thank you.
Your beautiful advice that you share with everybody, and to watch your dreams unfold with this beautiful wife and daughter.
Here we are.
And
yeah.
I'm so excited to see what's next for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So thank you for being on. It's been amazing. You're going to help out so many people, and we'll have to do this again sometime soon with some of your other companies and ventures. I'm excited.
I would love to.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you. That was good.